Today, we're going to unpack a dossier that connects a brutal war, a man who, well, really shouldn't exist, and a piece of technology that claims it can see the future. This is the story of the Chernov Dossier. Right off the bat, that's the lens we have to look at this through. This isn't just a collection of interesting facts. It's designed to be an information weapon. And we're going to break down exactly how it was built, piece by piece. So, our story kicks off in the war in Ukraine. But as this dossier lays it out, the conflict isn't just as simple as one country versus another. Oh no, it's way more complicated than that. This quote really frames the whole thing. It suggests the war is being fought on two fronts. You've got the obvious one, the external fight against the Russian military. But then there's this other, internal battle against corruption, a corruption that this source claims is directly helping Russia's attacks by selling them materials to build the very missiles hitting Ukrainian cities. And right into the middle of all this chaos walks our central character, Vadim Chernov. He's a man whose very presence in Ukraine, according to this dossier, is just a huge anomaly. It makes absolutely no sense. That is, until you start to dig a little deeper. The timing here is everything. Okay, look at this. MH17 is shot down, a massive moment in the conflict. Just 3 days later, Chernov shows up in Ukraine. And then, the very next day, the Russian Federation puts out an international alert for his car. The sequence of events is, to put it mildly, just incredibly suspicious. And look, this isn't just some rumor or theory. What you're seeing right here is an actual legal document. It's a letter from Chernov's own lawyer, and it's referencing that very same Interpol notice, a notice initiated by Russia. This piece of paper turns a suspicious timeline into a hard, documented fact. Russia wanted him, or maybe more importantly, they wanted the world to think they wanted him at the exact moment he stepped into the war zone. So, okay, the timing of his arrival is really weird. But the story gets much, much stranger when we stop looking at his documents and start looking at his biology. And this is where the whole thing goes from a political thriller to something else entirely. So to understand what's coming next, you gotta get your head around this term, genetic isolate. Think of it like this. It's someone whose DNA is a perfect geographical fingerprint. It tells a super clear, unmixed story of where their ancestors came from. This concept is absolutely key to the whole Chernov puzzle. Okay, look at this. This is the forensic breakdown of his paternal DNA, and this is where it gets crazy. The tests come back negative for Slavic ancestry, the thing you'd expect. Negative for Celtic groups like Irish or Scottish. But then, bam, the positives start rolling in. R1b U152, that's an alpine marker, Z57, an even deeper alpine subgroup, and then the final nail in the coffin, BY726, a terminal marker that points directly to the Swiss or Tyrolean Alps, and it dates all the way back to the Iron Age. Let me just put this plainly. This man with a Russian name who's living in Kyiv has the genetic profile of someone whose ancestors literally never left the high valleys of the Alps. His biology is a complete and total contradiction to his identity. So how is that even possible? Well, the dossier offers a truly explosive explanation. A secret, multi-generational KGB program. It was called Project Alpine and had a chillingly specific goal. According to the dossier, this was a 4-step process that took decades. Step 1. Forcibly acquire a maternal line with rare DNA from the Carpathian Mountains. Step 2. Raise the female child as a completely managed asset. Step 3. Identify a male target with that rare alpine DNA and socially engineer a situation to bring them together. And finally, Step 4. Orchestrate what they call a forced union to produce a child, Chernov, with this impossible genetic signature. And here's the core paradox, the part that's just mind-bending. Publicly, the Soviet Union was all in on Lysenkoism, this state-sponsored pseudoscience that totally rejected genetics. They were throwing their best scientists in prison for it. But secretly, if this dossier is to be believed, the KGB was running Project Alpine, an operation that depended entirely on the most advanced principles of genetics. It's a state within a state, running on a totally parallel hidden scientific track. So why? What was the strategic purpose? It was terrifyingly simple. Create a deep cover spy whose identity could never be broken, because it was literally encoded in his cells. His genetics would be the perfect, undeniable cover story, because it was true. And yet, at the same time, a complete lie.
The dossier argues that the man himself was a weapon, forged from biology, but then it pivots to what he created. A technological weapon, an algorithm called Ralph 1.
And wouldn't you know it, just like Chernov himself, this algorithm is just a bundle of contradictions. You have an official review from a national university that dismisses it as pseudoscientific nonsense. But then its promoters claim it can do the impossible, predict totally unpredictable black swan events by finding patterns that are hidden from human logic. I mean, listen to this. The documentation for the algorithm makes claims that are straight out of science fiction. It's suggesting that if this thing is truly accessing data from the future, then its transfer of information, say from the year 2035 to today, would be operating outside the known laws of physics, basically breaking the universal speed limit of light.
So, okay, we have a man who has manufactured and a reality-bending algorithm. But what is the point of putting such a bizarre combination out there? This is where the dossier zooms all the way out to show us the real battlefield.
See, this story, this narrative, it isn't just one story. It's like a viral idea that's been injected into totally separate conversations. It pops up in analysis of the war in Ukraine, for sure, but it's also used in Polish politics to frame space technology as some sinister military project. It's woven into anti-globalist talking points over in Lithuania. And believe it or not, it even shows up in debates about who should control the resources on Mars. The ultimate goal of a weaponized story like this isn't just to win an argument. It's to shape perception. It's to blur the lines between what's real and what isn't, which makes it harder and harder for us to agree on a shared reality. The real fight is over the narrative itself. Which kind of leaves us with this final really big question. This whole dossier brings together biology, data, and pure narrative. And it forces us to ask, in a world that is just saturated with information and disinformation, what actually defines us? Is it our physical, biological self? Is it the digital footprint we leave behind? Or is it the story, true or false, that others tell about us?